Imagine building a more successful hypnosis business just in the next 10 days. To learn how, please visit WorkSmartHypnosis.com and take the 10-day Hypnosis Business Challenge. Yours free today.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Welcome back. It's Jason Linett here with Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 22. And this is a very special program that I've been wanting to put out there for quite some time. And I'll give you the bit of the preamble to this and then introduce the very special guest I have here to discuss it with me. But the whole concept of being a host for guest training events. And here to share a conversation about that today is Cheryl Elman. Cheryl, good to have you here.
Great to be here, Jason. And I know it's a topic we've discussed on numerous occasions. We've had the opportunity, Larry and I, the wonderful opportunity of traveling in the last few years, and we have spoken in 14 countries, including the U.S. and in multiple cities within some of the countries. And we've had some really good hosts that make it worthwhile. You know, Larry's going on 76, and I'm right there in my 60s now. And traveling can be real difficult. It can be difficult. It's just can be very uncomfortable getting places, and when you're especially schlepping all the stuff between, you know, you're sometimes we've been out there for 60 days going from one to the other, because once you've flown across the pond, it's easier for us to just go to the next city. Mm-hmm. So we'll sort of string them together. So it's sometimes very difficult to think through all the steps.
Yeah.
And having wonderful hosts makes such a difference.
And for those who may not know you, your husband is Larry Elman, who is the son of Dave Elman, and the class that, for the most part, the two of you travel around and train is Best Practices of Dave Elman.
Yes.
Yes.
It is our goal to continue Dad's legacy, and people are interested in his work and want us to come. And sometimes we do it in English, and sometimes we use translators, and sometimes we use interpreters with the booths and the earphones. Feel like we're at the UN. So it was very different at the beginning doing it, but where sometimes it was a little tougher was after the class was over. And then you have our first group that we did that with was in Switzerland, and it was German speaking people, and there were some people that spoke absolutely no English. Mm-hmm. And they would sit down to have an earnest discussion with us at the bar after the class.
Yeah.
And so what is really great when the host also has provided us with somebody to, you know, sort of assign some people to us before we got to know people and ask ourselves of just sort of hang out with us so they can translate, so we could speak to the people that were just German speaking and still be able to enjoy them after class too.
Yeah.
So that was like such a little thing, but it makes such a big difference.
And I'd share, let's kind of go from a bigger picture perspective first. We're recording this here at the Mid-America Hypnosis Conference, which is a great event where there's people coming in from this event all over the world. And not everybody is able to attend conventions. Everybody's able to get out to these events. So I'd share, I can actually thank a local hypnotist in my area, Tim Horn, who was the first opportunity that I had when he connected with me and said, Inez Simpson does a wonderful class. I'd love to have you host her. And the three of us partnered together and put on an event about 2 years ago at this point. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've hosted you and Larry. I've hosted Inez Simpson now twice. Had Roy Hunter in. Had, who else? Sheila Granger, Mark Carlin. Just last weekend, I had Shawn Michael Andrews. And the biggest thing that I've found is the takeaway is that you suddenly turn this one event into its own little mini convention, that not only is it the information of everyone who's there learning from this one instructor or these several instructors, whatever the case may be, but you have, it's all of a sudden, it's like that, well, to use the language, it's a meetup on steroids, because you've got everyone there for one specific goal, but at the same time, it's the side conversations at lunch. It's the people getting together. We had for Shawn Michael Andrews, I wasn't there for this, but people were getting together at a local restaurant and bar and practicing there actually at this local restaurant. So it becomes this wonderful experience to just gather people together and just connect everybody for the same common good. You had an interesting experience of, I forget which country it was, but an event that was thrown together in a matter of a few weeks.
Yes, we were heading out. We were going to be speaking in on a boat in the Danube. We got to teach in Hungary, in Budapest, which was lovely. And we were going to then, my grandfather on my father's side came from Hungary. So we were going to do a lot of touring in Hungary and get more of a feel for the country. And then we were going to be hosted by Eugene Papa over in Romania. And we were going to also do a little more getting to explore the country there. And all of a sudden I got this call from somebody through social media in Poland going, "Can you come here?" So I think it was only 3.5 weeks out, roughly, from when we were coming. And he put together a class, a really good-sized class, and he managed to do that. And he contacted other trainers, different modalities. One was Ericksonian, one was more NLP. I don't remember what the other ones. So they actually were trainers in Poland, but that sort of did different things. And it almost became like a mini conference for them. They all brought students and they, to come together for this best practice of Dave Elman. And it came together very quickly, and he got the interpreter and the interpretation booth. And I was just amazed. So, Michal, you did such a phenomenal job. That was the shortest put together class.
Yeah. But to chunk up from that story, it really proves the benefit of having a real cohesive local community where everyone gets together, everyone's friendly, and the instructors, the practitioners all communicate with each other well and work with each other.
Yes. Yeah. And even if they didn't normally pool together, but pooling together resources is a great way to be able to bring in speakers. And then once you start bringing in speakers, they get a taste for it and they want more.
Right.
So right now I have 2 people that had never trained together in Portugal, looking to put together, and so that they'd have enough people to bring us to Portugal in March.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
So far we've talked about, just in terms of business strategy, just the value of having a list, which would be for the instructors, their individual students that they've actually trained so far, as well as the local community that's there as well. And I'd actually point back to previous podcast session number 5, List Building 101. The list that I use to sell these events is basically using the same strategies that I've used to get the clients in the office. I'd share a couple of quick points just in terms of promoting these events, that just content is king. I know that when I hosted you and Larry, when we taught the class together, we did, it was a Google Hangout that we did. That a wonderful little trick you can do in Google Hangouts is that you can actually, the Google Hangouts live, the video then goes to YouTube. And if you want to get really extra cretin, I borrowed this idea from Shawn Michael Andrews. Once it's up on YouTube, you can download it, then add titles, and then stick it back up there again and make it look really nice. Which is exceptionally nice for when, we spend like 3 minutes going, is this working? And it was. So it's very forgiving after the fact, but getting videos out there, you, Larry, and I are teaching a certification program together.
We're so excited about that.
Yeah, and we'll have information about that soon, but that's going to be in the Northern Virginia area. It's a 9-day course, July 18th through 26th. This is for people who are looking to become certified in hypnosis. It's also for people who are already certified and would like the opportunity to train with the 3 of us together. But specifically, I give the example of, and you'll see this in the next couple of months as well. While we're here, we're shooting a number of videos. We're doing this program as well. It's all about producing that content. If you go to, I'll leave the site live, go to smaclass.com, and that's just a redirect. You've heard me talk about vanity URLs before. It redirects to a longer website. But that's the page that I put together to promote the event with Shawn Michael Andrews. So there we were at Hypno Thoughts Live, shooting several videos to slowly trickle out and promote the event. So I would share, it's a funny thing that you often would hear of events being canceled or lightly attended, and promoting these things is really not that difficult. Just a small dash of creativity. Videos are great. Sending out emails to a list are great. Connecting, as you just shared the story, with other instructors. What other things have you seen to be effective for just helping to pack the house for these events?
I think their enthusiasm and as we go around and speak, part of how we had a panel just a few days ago on global hypnosis, and you end up, like, we happen to work a lot with Shawn Michael Andrews. We have some joint products we've taught together. John, I've learned and taken some business coaching with John Weir. So as you're going around and teaching and you're mentioning their names, Roy Hunter, we have found that we have followed each other around.
Yeah.
And so you have a group of hypnotists that help promote you at the same time, and vice versa. So that also helps, having other people mention it in to their lists. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I think Scott, we were just listening to Scott Sandlin, who gave the keynote remotely here.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said is you need to keep learning, and you need to get out and learn from different people. And I think that was part of the thing when you just mentioned our course. Every time I have sat through somebody's certification course, I've learned something different. I have always come through every class going away with something new.
Yeah.
A new way of thinking about it, a new way of doing it. Oh, that's interesting.
And I flash back to, it actually wasn't an event that I was hosting, but it was a friend in the area that was teaching a class, and I sent it out to my list just to promote it. I'll promote the events that even just aren't mine as well, of course, just whatever out there is good. And the response back I got from someone who I highly respect was, "Oh, I did that about 10 years ago. I don't have to do that again." When there are so many classes that I very openly share, and I say this without ego, but occasionally I'll have a student of mine ask, "What about this event you've got coming up? What about this event?" And I'd very openly share, I only host the events that I feel are of quality. I, of course, won't mention who, but there are several people who have reached out to me to say, "Hey, I want to come to your school and train." And there may be some specific reasons, and I may give a constructive piece of advice as to why I don't think it's a great fit. We need to raise that bar of the education, but I've referenced that I had Roy Hunter at my school for specifically the reason of I wanted to revisit that information again myself. I wanted to, when the opportunity came up to host Inez Simpson for the second year in a row, wonderful. I love the advances. I love the wonderful nuances she's been bringing to everything that she does. So just that thirst for more information, that thirst for more knowledge, when you stop learning, that's the time to start to find something else to do, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is not about getting your basic certification and then I'm done.
Yeah.
You really do need to renew and learn on. And I guess I am very fortunate that we attend so many conferences and that we've been invited so many places. I think part of the thing I love about traveling and teaching for both Larry and I is working with the hosts, because we always make them part of the class.
Yeah.
So they become that third instructor, and it also gives an infusion in of new interpretations of our stuff, or bringing in the cultural aspects of it. Now, I want to say, as far as hosts, it's important to really, you were saying it had to be a fit. I put together something very last minute once, and not knowing the person that was sponsoring or hosting us very well. And I have to say, it was not a good fit. It was not a good fit teaching style-wise, personality-wise. So now I definitely make sure that we Skype a few times, that we have conversations. And even if we have different views, that's okay. But the chemistry needs to be there.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that, the three of us have is great chemistry, and when we're teaching together. Shawn Michael Andrews and Larry have great chemistry, always have, when they're teaching together. And Larry and I are developing good chemistry. We have our shtick, and it's
Exactly,
interesting
yeah.
because really Dave Elman was the instructor, but Pauline Elman was also instructing at every class with him.
Yeah.
So I think it's important also as a host to make it easy for your guests. Picking them up at the airport or arranging transportation.
Right. And I've seen a nice mixture of people that I've asked the question of, I can pick you up. And I would actually share, this is probably one of those areas where I could be a little bit better, but I'm open with people about, I like to be home with my family. I like to see my kids
Right.
at the end of the night. So if it's a 3-day class, let's pick one night and all of us go out together that one night. And I'll always give the option of, I can pick you up at the airport, I can cover a taxi, I can pay for a rental car, and just offering the options, what's best for you.
Absolutely. Where it came in really important for us is one of the tours we did on 60 days on the road. Only when we were in Zurich were people driving on the quote-unquote right side of the road.
Yeah.
and so going to all these other countries, England, Hong Kong, Australia, Singapore, we were not comfortable with, neither of us have ever driven on the other side of the road. And then you add in there lots of luggage, not knowing where we're going, fatigue from driving. So to us, it's important, somebody come get us.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, we would hop on a train and do stuff, but we're not anymore. So that, for us, making it the hosts that have gone out of their way to help us in that respect. Larry couldn't do a lot of walking, so that they took us on a lot of driving tours.
Yeah.
So we're already there, taking a little time to spend, and giving us, or if they couldn't, somebody took us there. Above and beyond. In Slovenia, they wanted us to see the underground caves in Postojna, and lots of up and down, and they actually rented a wheelchair for Larry, and Boris he runs up mountains, and he was pushing Larry up and down in these caves. Occasionally Larry would get up and walk, walk up a hill, but that was like so above and beyond, but he really wanted him to experience it. So that was really fun.
And I can flash back to when we had Sheila Granger in town, driving into D.C., going to the gates in front of the White House, and of course the joke is, oh, they didn't know we were coming, so we can't go inside. Yeah. So let's talk for a moment, just because this is something that pops up in this category of just the business side of things. So for the most part, what I've seen is that the host is responsible for the travel expenses.
Yes.
And I'll give you a tip on that in a moment, but the host is responsible for the travel expenses, and then the profits of the class are then split in some form.
Right.
For the most part, that's what I tend to see. And I'd share the quick tip that for the most part, when I've hosted events, I will coordinate it so it's in conjunction with something the person is already doing. So, for example, with Sean Michael Andrews the other weekend, he lives out in Germany now. So rather than having to foot the cost of a flight from Germany and back, planning it specifically while he was already coming into the States for this convention, and then coordinating it so we did that weekend, then he's up here. The Hypnobirthing Conclave was in Sterling, Virginia last year, which Roy Hunter was speaking at last year. So sure enough, we hosted the event the weekend before at my center, which is actually a nice event. And I'd share this anecdote real quick, because we had originally planned specifically, let's just do the 2-day age regression class that he offers, specifically because at Hypnobirthing the following weekend, he was already doing the parts therapy class. So we were very respectful of this event was already happening somewhere else in town, which of course then we were getting a lot of demand of, why is he not doing the parts therapy class? So we then reached out to Mickey Mongan, referenced the class, and she of course gave us the blessing. So he taught parts therapy basically twice in 2 weeks in the same neighborhood, but to 2 very different audiences.
Right.
So I think it's always good to connect back with whatever conventions are going on, connect back with whatever classes are going on.
And that is how I plan our travel. For example, Iceland wanted us to come back and teach in March, and we had that scheduled. And so we're already going over there, and it's really, if you're going to Europe, to stop and go through Iceland is virtually hardly any other expense, and sometimes the cheapest way to get to Europe. So just so you know. And so when we were going, that's when we put in Portugal and we put in Denmark, and that way the overseas gets split up between in some way between all the locations, and then there's the local travel. So that generally they also will cover the hotel.
So what would you recommend? And I've done a mixture of this. I've sometimes had the case where basically I was responsible for the sales page, I was collecting all the income and then paying the guest trainer. And then there have been other events where specifically for Virtual Gastric Band, I had a sales page, Mark Carlin had a sales page, Sheila Granger had a sales page, and then we just collected it all together. I think the biggest thing is just to keep everything organized.
Yes.
And the lesson learned from a class that I signed up for years ago, which was then unfortunately canceled, and that I had to kind of fight to get a refund on it. To take the positive out of that experience, the money from the class does not exist until the certificates are in hand. So this is why specifically I'm a big fan of, I don't tend to use a lot of PayPal for my business. I have a separate merchant account, so all the funds live in PayPal. Because otherwise, we all can be guilty of this. You're looking at those funds that are coming in, and you're fooled to think it's yours.
You have the option with PayPal to either have the money sweep into your account or just let it accumulate.
That's
there.
what I do, yeah.
And I let it accumulate there anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's always that last minute, God, I really need some money. Oh, let me go look. It's like an instant savings account.
By the way, a quick bookkeeping tip, and this was my fault as of 2013, and it's fixed now for 14. Have two different PayPal accounts. Have a personal one for random junk you buy online, and then have a business one, because otherwise it's a real nightmare and cost me several $100s of bookkeeping to clean that up. It's all accounted for, but have two accounts, the same reason you should have a business checking account, a business credit card, business savings, and all of that.
Correct.
These things should be separate. But I do something that I can knock on marble here in this business center of the hotel, which is to say that I've never had any challenges with this. But if I know that you've got to book travel, I'll typically send it in advance, that it shouldn't be a burden for you to come to my area and do a class.
And that is a big help. Sometimes people have offered to book it for us, but I like to make sure I book it because we need a certain amount of time between planes. When they give you 56 minutes, we just can't get it. Wheelchairs, canes. I want to, and then if it's late, I want to leave at least a 2-hour gap.
Right.
And then I'm married.
I hear that with a 3-hour delayed flight coming out here.
Right. And then I also am married to an aeronautical engineer. So I not only have to look at the times, what airline it is, I have to look at what equipment we're flying on, because there are certain planes he likes and certain planes he doesn't.
Yeah.
So booking comes with a responsibility. But so I always appreciate when they say, well, I'll book it, and then, or if I didn't have, sometimes those plane tickets have been $7,000 for the two of us, big long ones. So if they haven't given it to us right away, to be able to wire it to us immediately after is also helped.
So I think the bigger picture here is, just to kind of recap where we are so far, is it helps to advance everybody in the local community. It helps to build a better community. So it's a side effect of, if you don't have this yet, this is a great strategy to strengthen that local community. It's a great way to bring in just wonderful people to the local area. It's part of what I do at conventions. I'm looking out for, what is it that I find interesting? What is it that the local area could benefit from?
Right.
I'm here, and there's certain people I've already talked to about, hey, when can we do this? When can we set this up? The other side of things is, of course, it is a source of income for that host as well, depending on how the organization tends to be made up. But I think the bigger picture is just practice good business practices and make sure everything is covered. And it's that goal always, just to make sure it's easy. Think of yourself as, well, from your perspective and Larry's. Here you are traveling across the world, and to be there on your feet teaching a class for several days in a row, And to do that with the challenge of this wasn't thought through, the plane was not taken care of, we don't have a hotel room. These little things, which doesn't take a lot of work, I found.
I have to tell you, Europe, it was, the last time, I didn't have everything booked ahead of time because I was still adding things.
Right, yeah.
So when I originally got the flight, I knew we were flying into one city. I think we went to Missouri to visit our grandson. Then we flew to Hungary, and then I knew we were leaving from Zurich. It's 2 months later, and I didn't try to book everything because when I went to Australia, I booked 10 legs of flights.
Right.
And it was like a major thing. Sometimes it's cheaper. And with all our luggage that we carry, we decided we would use some trains. So we actually went on overnight trains, which was, by the way, very interesting because to go to Zurich from Amsterdam, we took this train and it said Munich. Well, we had been in Munich a few months earlier. Munich is in a totally different direction than Zurich. And they said, oh, no, you get on the Munich train. And I'm going, no, we're going to Zurich. And they said, oh, you're just in these cars in the middle of the night, the train stops. They split the train and half the train goes with one engine and half the other. So it's different.
Haven't seen that before.
And sleeping in these little sleeper cars. But trying to book, if you're used to booking airfare, trying to look up and book and call train stations, it's not an easy process to do. And you're looking up because you're looking in, coming in on their Google. It's coming up in different languages. You're not always able to get English. So it's not always as easy to book in between. So I learned
That's why I like
this
doing
time.
them in my neighborhood. I've got the nice benefit of a local hypnotist who's also a real estate agent, so we can often use their classroom because they have more restrooms and fit more people. But for the most part, again, it's making use of those local resources. It's a nice little addition to call local hotels and set up sort of a discount if possible.
Yeah, I have that at our place,
They're
too.
very open to that. It's also nice, for example, to fold in local restaurants and just make the entire experience very easy.
Yes.
But I think the bigger picture here is just these things are really not that hard to promote.
Right.
I think the best advice that I've seen is to do a survey of people, have something that people can fill out, whether it's a meetup, whether it's a chapter meeting, whether it's even one of these types of events, and just ask people who they're interested in having in. So, for example, that's how the Roy Hunter event came to be, because people at a Nez Simpson's event were asking for Roy Hunter.
Right.
There are also a few people who wrote down Tony Robbins, and I'd love to host him at my office that will seat about 16 people.
$10,000 per person.
We'll see what we can do.
I wanted to say, we were talking the other day, and what did Sean Michael Andrews said? People ask how that I can come speak to them, and he'd say, put a class together of 15 people or 20 people, and I'll come. Yeah. And that's the same thing. Larry and I are talking seriously about going cross country.
Yeah.
And we are looking to go and speak different places along
Would
the
you
way.
rather be asking the question of number of bodies and seats or a minimum income?
I actually do. We now have, it used to be we split everything. And then different people had different ideas of what the expenditure should be.
Right.
And so I now have learned a couple of times going and not making anything, but just having our expenses paid, which is good. As Shelley said the other day when we were in our conference, it's nice to be able to travel like that, but you still have to make some money.
Yeah.
You still have those expenses at home and stuff. So now we actually do have a minimal, like that first X number of dollars, pays for our weekend.
Right.
Our 2-day event, and then after that, the expenses, then we'll split. So it's made it both ways, because just having that minimum, there's no major incentive to fill that room, and we want to speak to a lot of people. So I think that it's a combination of both for us now.
So then if there's an instructor, if there's a hypnotist out there who wants to do an event like this, what would you recommend perhaps their first step? to take that leap and do an event like this?
To poll, like we may be going to Alaska, and so she polled her people to see how many people would be interested in taking this class, and then while we're going cross country, it's not always that weekend class. It could also be the meetups, like your Wednesday. I was coming up to take care of my new great niece, and I was so excited I was going to be there on one of your meetups. I love coming to your meetups, but would I normally travel 10 hours round trip to come up,
right?
On a regular basis? But whenever I can be up here, I love to come to the meetups.
Yeah.
So there could be NGH meetings. There could be meetings from different organizations, looking and researching what those are, trying to connect with some of those people that would like to host something, and then doing a connect the dots. How can we get there? How can we get back? We want to drive our little Prius.
Yeah.
The three of us, Rosie Elman, Larry Elman, and Cheryl Elman, going cross-country.
If you have not friended Rosie Elman on Facebook, find her.
Yes, she's our hypno dog. She's wonderful.
And how can people find you online?
We are at www. I have three websites now. I'm just having a thing. It's Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute.com. And Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute.com. I'm also excited. I want to take this little moment to say we have finally gotten a live affiliate program out there. People have been asking us for years.
Excellent.
And so if you go to elmanhypnosis.com, elmanhypnosis.com, you can sign up to be an affiliate.
Excellent.
So we're really looking forward to that.
Oh, cool. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to.
I see you all the time. I'll see you later.
I know. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.
Hey there, it's Jason, and I want you to be one of the first to find out as we upload amazing new content. So do this right now. Click the subscribe button right here on this video. That's going to link you to our YouTube channel here, and you will be the first to find out as new resources and downloads are made available. Do it now.